Hi, good morning. Welcome to Talking Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Great to be with you this Monday morning. It's been more than a year since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. It's affected the labor market. People have lost their jobs. People had to make their abrupt shift from working in the office to working from home. Definitely, the world of work has changed since COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. I want to delve into that this morning and what we should do post-COVID-19. Joining me to discuss is Kweku Abesi, who is former CEO of Joberman, also has experience in this field. He's been in this field for so many years. He's going to be delving into that with us. I want to welcome you to this discussion. Kweku, hope you're doing well this Monday morning.
I'm very well, Daryl. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear. We want to start, first of all, by asking you what the impact has been on the world of work since 2020, when COVID-19 was declared a pandemic?
Yeah, so the work, though, first of all, thanks for inviting me to this honorable platform. The world of work has definitely been impacted by COVID-19. Statistics show that companies stopped recruiting during the period when it first hit. And even I remember from my Joberman days, we realized that there was a reduction in the number of employers coming to us asking us to recruit from them. So. And obviously, the sectors which were most hit were the hospitality. That was one of the sectors I know that was really hit by the pandemic, and other sectors as well were obviously affected. Another thing, obviously, we noted during this period was the ways of work had to change dramatically. A lot of people had to go from being physically in the office to working from home. And which prior to that wasn't something which was the norm. So it took quite some time for people to get used to this whole process of working from home. Yeah. So I'll say yes, the impact has been insignificant, but in certain ways, I think it's been good for the workforce as well, because it gives people the flexibility to work from home, especially those with families, and be able to cater for their children as well whilst working from home. So it has its merits and demerits, I guess.
Since you have insight, maybe you could help us understand which aspects of the job market were affected. For instance, I know that the hospitality sector was greatly affected by that. And so if you're working there, chances are that you're going to be laid off. Which other sectors as well?
Yes, I mentioned the hospitality sector earlier. Other sectors, the energy sector, I think, was also a huge, also had some challenges due to COVID-19. Thinking about the other sectors which sort of profited, actually, will be the telecommunication sector. You realize, from MTN's declaring their P&L results that they have done extremely well, and that is because a lot of people have been working from home and more data is being used on a daily basis. I mean, we're having this interview by Zoom now, and that is data being used here. So hospitality, the energy sector, obviously, in my personal opinion, any sector which requires someone to be physically present has been affected by this pandemic.
Okay, I mean, you talked about the fact that employers had to make choices such as allowing their workers to work from home and all of that. How has that evolved over time? Because I'm hearing that companies elsewhere are asking workers to come back to the office.
Indeed, and again, it's sector specific, I beg your pardon. So you got companies who have been able to adapt really well to the changing times. There are others who, as I mentioned earlier, may be struggling. Hospitality sector is one that, it may be difficult to go fully online because, if you think about, hotels and, working in the tourism sector, for example, these are roles where you have to come into physical contact with people. So the online service is going to be pretty limited. I remember there was this company that was doing a virtual tour of Israel, which I joined, which I thought gave me quite a good insight into Israel, but it wasn't the same as being physically present to visit the location. So for me, I think the challenge that a lot of companies may have, some companies may have, is the fact that the technology has its limitations depending on which sector you're working in. So people definitely have to come to work because they need that face-to-face interaction with their customers.
Okay. And so, I mean, you talked about technologies, which means that employers have to invest in new technologies if they, if they have to work effectively and efficiently during this time of the pandemic, because the pandemic is not over yet. We are seeing a third wave right here in Ghana. We don't know what the future holds. And that would also mean that employees or potential employees have to have knowledge about how these technologies work. Certainly. I mean, technology is definitely going to have an impact on our working ways from now onwards. And even before the pandemic, there was a lot of initiatives to incorporate technology in the day-to-day activities of these companies. So one thing I noticed, I remember we did a research at Job One. One thing we noticed was a lot of businesses were definitely adopting technology in their day-to-day practices or their day-to-day operations. And for me, I think a lot of the young people definitely embrace technology. I always use this example of, I don't remember the last time I actually went to the bank physically to carry out a transaction, because a lot of the transactions that you do with the banks can really be done online, whether transfer of funds or receipt of funds. And obviously we've got the Momo as well, the mobile money platforms, which are now interoperable, so you can send money from one platform to another easily. So I cannot emphasize, the importance of technology in our day-to-day operations. And to be honest, the technology is going to cut operational costs as well, because I remember a lot of people had to travel, for meetings and interviews. But now with technology, a lot of these meetings can be done online. So companies could also use this, to use technology as a way of cutting down on the operational costs. So technology definitely has a huge role to play in our day-to-day activities, and companies have to embrace that. Okay. And I mean, if you have to go to the office to work, even things there have changed in terms of physical proximity, where you can sit because of social distancing rules and all of that. Now, employers also have to think about shifts. Some having to come this day, some having to come the other day. That also could have an impact on productivity. Tell us about it.
Yes, it does, and I guess it really depends on the role that these employers play within the company, where obviously if you are a bank teller, most likely you might have to be in the office physically, because again, it's one of those roles that requires a face-to-face interaction with the customer. But there are some roles that can literally be done, remotely once you have your laptop and a good internet connection. So I guess with the shift system, it really again depends on which role you are fulfilling within your company. I remember we started a shift system. We started with full-time working from home when the pandemic hit, and then as time went on, we decided to do a shift system. And one thing I noticed with the shift system was a lot of our sales team members struggled when they were working from home because of the technology we're using for making calls. So they had to come to the office to make most of those calls. But for our other roles, those who were sort of in either operations or marketing, or those roles were roles where they could do a lot of their work from home. So my take is, it should not really affect productivity. It really depends on the role that you are asked to fulfill and whether you can fulfill those roles effectively, whether you're working from home or whether you're working in the office.
Great stuff. If you're joining us, this is Talking Business. We are discussing the world of work post COVID-19 and its impact on our work attitudes. I want to move on and talk about what employers are looking for during these times. You have been with Jobberman, you are a recruitment agency. What changed about what employers were looking for to employ people?
Yeah, good question. So one thing that we noticed was obviously, the employers were looking for people who were tech savvy, because it got to that point where a lot of the work was going to be done from home. So they require people who had really good IT skills in their day-to-day operations. What we also noticed as well during that period was companies were looking for people who were sort of multifaceted, in the sense that because there were quite a reduction in the number of people who were being recruited, companies required people who could be able to play two or three roles at the same time, which we found interesting. But I think it was more to do with the fact that with reduction in numbers, they were looking for people who they thought were dynamic, were easily adaptable to taking up new challenges. And that is so, in our conversations with employees job seekers, one of the things that we always said to them was, or even people who were currently employed in their current roles, is don't, try to sort of cocoon yourself in a particular role, but try to be dynamic as well by learning new things, and, gaining new skill sets, because the more multifaceted you are, the easier it is for your employer to keep you in a job. Because let's face it, employers were also struggling. They were trying to reduce their costs, and if they thought they could do away with you, then it's easy for them to let you go. But if you had a skill set which they thought was of real value, which make them more profitable, then you are likely to be retained in a role. So to answer your question, yes, people who were multifaceted, people who had really good IT skills as well. And I noticed also companies were leaning towards people who were, sales oriented, because ultimately, if you have that sales or stroke BD experience, that is the engine of every company. So that was also a huge, role that companies were looking for in terms of skill sets.
Well, so if employers were looking for people who were multifaceted, does that suggest that there is a decline in demand for workers?
Yes, definitely. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, companies were not recruiting. Obviously, the numbers have started increasing now. But prior to that, companies were not recruiting as many people as they used to in the past. And obviously, for multiple reasons, it could be downturn in the economy due to Covid-19, and obviously they use this opportunity as well to try and recruit the best possible candidates that they could bring into their businesses. So yes, there was a decline, and also obviously there was a shift in terms of restructuring their businesses.
And I know that there are many young people watching right now who are wondering, okay, you talk about multifaceted and all of that. What skill sets do they need to be employable during these times? Well,
for me, it's apart from the skill sets, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The attitude is also a huge factor, which a lot of employers take into consideration, because I sincerely believe that skills can be taught. Okay, even if the person doesn't have all the skill sets required for the job, that person can sort of learn on the job and pick up on those skill sets quickly. For me, the attitude is what is key, because once you have the right attitude and you are willing to learn and are willing to apply yourself to the role that you've been given, then you have a really good chance of getting a job. But coming back to the skill sets issue, I think I already mentioned the IT and sales background. Those two are definitely key. Another thing that people are looking for is your ability to be flexible and adaptable. Because a lot of young people, and this is just based on my observation, a lot of people are looking for that sort of white-collar role where they will sit in offices behind their computers and all that. But there are other jobs which people could also be could make themselves adaptable to, and also, gain some skill sets from. So my point, when I'm speaking to job seekers is sometimes you probably have to go down to the lowest level and then work your way up, but at least you would gain some skill sets from whichever role that you've been assigned. Yeah. So yeah, IT and then the sales acumen or business development acumen for me are the two key roles which are key to to gaining employment at the moment.
And if I was looking for a job, what would you suggest I look at?
So currently, if you're looking for a job, there are obviously a lot of job boards out there. There are the Job Amounts, which is quite a reputable company for recruiting. So, and one of the good things, obviously, about Job Amount as well is they are pretty transparent in their recruitment process. So people don't physically have to come to the offices to drop their CVs off. You can actually place your CV on a platform that Job Amount has created. So look at the job boards. Obviously, there's an element of networking as well, which is necessary. So if you are looking to work in a particular company as well, put your profile on LinkedIn, and fill in as much detail as possible. You probably get noticed by recruiters. If you're looking to work for a particular company, look for your colleagues or people who may know somebody in that company, and network with them, send them your CV, and let's say to them that, look, you have, the skill sets required for this job. One of the things that people don't take into consideration when looking for jobs as well is the role that maybe a sponsor plays in getting you that job as well. So it's always useful to have somebody who would be your champion your cause, as the case may be, whether be it in the boardroom or be it in having a contact within another industry where the person can introduce you to either the head of HR or. So yeah, job boards definitely are a good place to look. LinkedIn is a good place to look at as well, and obviously through your own personal networks, that could also help you to get a job.
My director was just whispering in my ears, where are the jobs? That's if actually there are jobs to look out for during these times. Well, final one, I just want to ask.
No, you're surprised. There are jobs out there. It's a case of, going online and really looking for those jobs. So, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, there are a lot of jobs pre the COVID pandemic, but there are still roles out there which people can apply for.
Okay. Final question, would you advise people to switch jobs during these times when a job is difficult to come by?
No, that's a good question. When it comes to switching jobs, I mean, people have different reasons for switching jobs. It could be that they are currently they are unhappy in their role, or they could it could be that there's an opportunity elsewhere where there could be a promotion. So in terms of switching jobs, there's never a right time or a wrong time to switch jobs. I think it depends on you, the individual, your personal circumstances, and what your career aspirations are. And obviously, if you're not getting those aspirations or those, you're not getting the opportunity in your current role, and you think you could get that job elsewhere, then obviously it's a good move. The risk, obviously, with that is when the companies are looking to cut down, most likely, people who haven't been in the company longer are the ones who are most likely to be laid off, because it works out cheaper from a compensation point of view for that employer. So, right. There are always benefits and a risk with these.
Kweku Agwesi is former CEO of Job Amount. Thanks so much for giving us insight into the job market and what we should be looking at amid the pandemic and post-pandemic. We are grateful for your time this morning. And that's Talking Business. My name is Darrell Kwa. Thanks for watching. Big interview is up next. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.